So welcome to the next video in the D4 Repertoire series, part 10, and this deals with one of the most popular openings on a top grandmaster level, which is the Grunfeld, or Grünfeld in German. Yeah, it's a very popular opening, not only on the grandmaster level and among world-class players, but also on the amateur level, and yeah, quite understandably so, because it's a pretty active opening for black. Often you get good free development, with the only drawback, of course, that white will build up a pretty big center often, which you then try to fight with your pieces. Of course, it's very popular on the world-class level, and this means there's no easy line to learn to get a nice advantage. I'll recommend a line. It's a topical main line, but I think it's one advantage of this line is that if you face somewhat weaker players or players that are not very well prepared, they won't have a really good answer, I think, because somehow this setup is not so popular on lower rating levels. Okay, let's get right to it. That's knight f3, bishop g7, and queen b3. The I think Russian variation, it's sometimes called. Yeah, white immediately pressurizes the d5 point, and I think by far the best option for black now is to just take on c4. If black doesn't know the line, sometimes he even plays c6, and this is rather nice for white, who can just exchange and develop, which leads to a nice kind of exchange Slav with the open c file, where black has gone for the fianchetto, and this is not the best setup against the exchange. The queen on b3 is also putting some pressure on d5 and b7. It's rather nice for white. So black players usually take on c4 and castle. Now e4, white grabbing the center. And now there's really a huge parting of the ways. Black has got yeah, lots of moves to choose from. One important point of the queen position on c4 is that it actually is not so easy for black to get in c5, which would be the normal kind of way to attack the center, because for instance c5, the queen is just able to take, or if you take with the pawn, this one is nicely protected. So let's go a bit through the lines here. The oldest line here is bishop g4, which was mostly no, it was the most popular line, I think, in the 50s and 60s, when the Grunfeld really became fashionable. I think it's a good idea to play in the most aggressive way, bishop e3, knight fd7, and then actually even long castle. A possible line here might be knight b6, and now, very important, queen c5, which really prevents c5 as directly as possible. Knight to d7 and queen g5, which forces black to take on f3, and then e6 and h4. I'll just stop here. This is just an example line. Of course, there are some other possibilities for black, for white as well, but it's just a line that I picked up because it was played in a recent Grandmaster game I think that was Tomaszewski versus Nepomniachtchi, two players with an ELO rating above 2700. White won a nice game. In general, the setup with the long castle makes it really hard for black to play c5, and I think white is a bit better here in general. The bishop g4 also is not the most popular move anymore. Other ideas are knight to a6. This has been played a lot by then world champion Kasparov in his matches against Anatoly Karpov, who played queen b3 quite often. He didn't have that great results, I think, Kasparov. He lost 1 or 2 games and made a couple of draws. Okay, bishop e2, normal move. c5, of course this was the idea of knight a6 to prepare this move. Then d5, e6, castles, e takes, bishop f5, rook e8 also possible, of course, bishop e3, rook e8, rook 81. This is maybe yeah, the main line after knight a6, and certainly if you intend to play this line, it's a good idea to study some games, how the play was continued here. In general, the main feature of the position, of course, is white's d-pawn, which is already a pass pawn and could be quite dangerous. Black's counterplay, of course, is mainly based on piece play, knight e4 or knight b4 at some point. Sometimes there are also ideas of queen b6 to b4 maybe. So it's a good idea to study a bit the games that have been played. Results have been excellent for white, and I think it's due to this kind of structure that knight a6 has lost also a little bit of popularity. An interesting line that is not played very often here is knight to c6. This actually was recommended in 2 recent books. There have been quite a lot of Grünfeld books the last couple of months even. This was a recommendation of both, I think it was Grandmaster Delchev's book, The Safest Grunfeld. Not sure if it's really safe opening, but it was, I think, The Safest Grunfeld. And also Grandmaster Boris Avruk, who published a 2-volume book, yeah, 2 volumes of more than 1,000 pages as a whole. On this opening, he also recommended knight c6, so it has to be taken seriously, of course. Bishop e2, bishop g4, and then d5 would be my recommendation. Knight a5. I'll just show the main line. This, in general, this opening is very concrete variation. So it's not possible, I think, to just invest, I don't know, half an hour or so and then okay, you'll know what you're doing. You really need to invest a bit of time to get acquainted with the different setups and moves orders that black may choose. I just show the main line. Castles, queen b6, queen a4, knight d7, and rook d1. I think this is the main line, and this is a point where it would be useful to study some games that have been played. There's been a recent game of Dutch number 1 Anish Giri. I think was another young grandmaster in the Dutch championship, where white really got a great position out of the opening. This was with this exact moves, so it's interesting to study this a bit deeper. Okay, what actually is the main line on move 7 here. I think the main line, or the most played move nowadays, is a6. The Hungarian variation, I think this is called. Black's idea here is to play a quick b5 and then c5. So, for instance, if White plays bishop e2 now, which is an interesting alternative to the move I'm suggesting, Black will go for immediate counterplay, which runs along these lines. This is also interesting. If you invest some time here, I think it also could be rewarding to look at this. This kind of line has the advantage, in a way, compared to the one I am suggesting, that it is rather safe. White can always, if he wants to just complete development, like with bishop e3, castles, rook d1, and will have a safe position. I think it's pretty sure that there will be some trades on the open c and d line, so this could be a safe alternative. My idea, or not my idea, but the move I'm proposing here is to play the direct e5, which leads to very sharp positions. Black then plays b5. Sorry, b5, queen b3, and retreats the knight. At this point, there are actually more than one interesting line. I suggest mainly h4 here, very direct, to go for h5 and open up the h-file. Other interesting moves here are e6, f takes e6, bishop e3, to weaken the structure in the center, and then switch attention even to the queen side with a4. This has been played quite a lot. It's quite funny. Black's main reply here is b4, queen b4, knight c6. I think it's really a weird position. Also interesting to study. Another maybe interesting move here is knight g5, which has been played by world number 1 Magnus Carlsen to win a nice game against Lenier Dominguez from Cuba. I think about beginning of this year. I'm not 100% sure. It could also be interesting to study this move, as it is, I think, not so well known. Okay, but the main suggestion would be h4. Then Black goes for c5, e6, c4 to get the queen out of this dangerous diagonal. Queen d1 back, queen to knight to b6, takes on f7, rook takes, h5, knight c6, takes, bishop e3. I think I'll stop here. We're already on move 16, but yeah, this is of course a very sharp position. White has succeeded in weakening Black's king side. He's only got the unprotected g6 pawn left, so it's clear that this will be a very unbalanced and sharp game. In general, the Grünfeld is an opening which you, I think, most of the time cannot approach with some slow maneuvering kind of play. It's really the kind of opening where you need to calculate exactly and precisely is a better word, and really fight Black in sharp positions. So it's really a good idea to pick a line like queen b3 and do some studying there. I think what is really rewarding about choosing this line is that I think that weaker players, or players who don't have such an extensive theoretical knowledge, will get huge problems, and if you've got a really strong opponent, you better have done some work at home before. Thanks for watching.